We're going to go over the cliff if we don't get Tyson Fisher on here.
Oh, man, look at the time.
Don't you like this new format, dude? Isn't it amazing? You get to move through time and space.
No settling in here, I can tell you that right now.
It's like literally like Dave got up, he's like, I got to go to the bathroom. I'm like, you better go quick. And he came on back, racing back in. Tyson Fisher, by the way, friend of the show, joins us. He's the associate editor. Congratulations on that, by the way, over at Landline Media. He's been covering the trucking industry as a journalist for more than a decade. He covers all aspects of the game with a focus on parking, courts law, tech, and we mean AVs and EVs and everything in between, and the federal government, which means you got your hands full. It's the reason why you're an associate editor. Welcome aboard, Tyson, for your first stop on Nemo Nation.
Tyson! Yeah, man, thanks for having me back. This is pretty exciting. I like the new format.
Yeah, thank you very much. How you doing, dude?
Busy, like you said. Yeah, man, there's a lot going on.
You've been covering a lot of things. You just wrote an article about 4 or 5 days ago. I love the title, too, man. Emission Impossible.
Yeah.
You should get a job in Washington writing up for the names of legislation.
There you go.
Tell us what's going. Tell us about Emission Impossible. Tell us about it.
I mean, yeah, make a kind of a long story short, the Trump administration of the federal government reversed California's vehicle emission standards, specifically advanced clean trucks and the low NOx omnibus rule. So, this was that very controversial, regulation that essentially would have forced a total of 11 states to sell electric trucks. That's essentially what it came down to. I know, like in New York alone, which is one of the states that adopted advanced clean trucks, it would have required, at a certain point, it required dealerships to sell a single electric truck before they could order 13 diesel trucks. Of course, the problem was...
We're talking about a loss leader, huh?
Yeah. And the problem they had was they couldn't sell a single electric truck. So, yeah, so for, trucking companies in those states that adopted the California rules, those trucking companies, they couldn't order any new diesel trucks because of that rule. So, it caused a lot of problems. A lot of the states kind of delayed the implementation of that rule because they noticed how big of a problem this is. But I know Trump, kind of promised to roll back California vehicle emissions standards during, when he was on the campaign trail. And he followed through. And so, so now advanced clean trucks is no longer around. Quickly, I want to point out that the way that they did it this time is through what's called a Congressional Review Act. And by using the Congressional Review Act, what that means is that California can't come back. Like, let's say in 2028, Democrats take over the White House. California is not allowed to submit a similar rule later down the road. So in order for California to pass another advanced clean trucks, it would require a literal act of Congress allowing it to do so. So this is like dead for not just now, but in the long term. So yeah, kind of a big deal.
It's also an attempt. We've talked about this last week for a little bit. The idea, Colin Long was on Friday, and he and I talked about the idea of using the states as laboratories of democracy, but also sometimes using the states or a state as a Trojan horse. That the federal government wants to do something, it doesn't have the support to do it nationwide, so it works with a particular state that's sympathetic to its agenda. That state then adopts that agenda, and then if it succeeds, or even if it succeeds as far as they're concerned, they then spread the agenda out from this point. I will say this, whatever you think about the policy, it is a nice moment to actually see Congress doing its job as opposed to it being an executive order, which, as we all know, an executive order, the next guy can get in there and be like, boom, sorry, thanks for playing. So this is a case where they've really locked this in. I mean, they pretty much say, no more experimenting with this. You want to do this again, you got to come to us for permission, right?
Good day. The one thing I will say real quick is to, kind of lower your expectations. I mean, first of all, let's take a victory lap. This is a kind of a big deal. But the method by which we did this, which is the Congressional Review Act, was done in a very controversial manner in that two independent government, nonpartisan government bodies. So the Government Accountability Office and the Senate Parliamentarian. They both said that these California EPA waivers, that is basically what we overturned here, they are not susceptible to the Congressional Review Act. But despite those two decisions, Republicans in Congress decided to move forward with it anyway. That right there is the basis of a lawsuit that California has just recently filed. So this is absolutely going to be reviewed by the courts. I wouldn't say whether or not they have a strong case, but as I just pointed out, two independent bodies within the government has said that they couldn't do this, and they did. So I don't know. We'll see how that works out. In the meantime, California Governor Newsom just signed an executive order saying we're going to move forward with a new plan for zero-emission vehicles. So we don't know what that's going to look like, but that's in the works.
Speaking of in the works, what do you have in the works? Because we want to make sure we cover a lot of stuff here in an awful hurry. So tell us what else it is you're working on. What did you think happened last week that was the most important thing? And what are you looking forward to this week that you think is going to be really high stakes for truckers?
Yeah, so for me, I'm following a lot of these lawsuits. The Trump administration has done a lot within the past couple of months. Of course, all of these are being challenged. So we got the California rules, for example, but we have some federal funding issues that are being challenged in the courts that are directly related to trucking, such as the electric vehicle funding. Tariffs are being challenged in the courts. So a lot of court challenges that I'm following those cases very closely because it could have a direct impact on trucking operations.
And let me ask you another question in regards to that. As it kind of plays through this week, as you kind of keep up with this stuff, when do you think that a lot of this stuff is going to be decided? Because that's one of the things a lot of people, Dave and I have been talking about this all year long, is I told Dave in regards to legal matters, it's important to move quickly because things move so slowly. Do you follow my logic there, Tyson? The idea that the reason why you got to go quickly is because if you don't file, it means by the time you do file, it means you're waiting even longer than an already long wait.
Generally speaking, court cases take for freaking ever. They can take years and years
or
and
even
years.
5 freaking ever.
Yeah, right. But when it comes to cases like this, where you're challenging a federal government policy that's taking effect immediately, the courts tend to move much quicker. So to answer your question, when can we see a decision? So with the tariff thing, we could see it probably within the next couple of weeks or maybe a month or so. Same thing with the federal funding issue. Now, with this California deal, I think that could be a lot more drawn out, court case. So, yeah, you just really never know. But when it comes to government policy that's being implemented right now, generally speaking, the courts move faster because it requires it. So I wish I had a better answer for you. But, yeah, as we all know, when it comes to the court system, it's very slow-moving and unpredictable.
Let me follow up one more thing, Dave, and then we'll get to a final question from Dave as well. You have been following, like I said, not just stuff at the federal government level, but you have been following the tariff stuff and how it relates to the courts as well, too. Do we have any more clarity here? Because, like I said, one of the things that's been happening with the tariffs is that it's been always like kind of wait and see, like deadlines push back, new situations on the ground. Is there anything you're expecting from the tariff stuff in the next couple of weeks that's going to have a high impact on drivers, or are we going to continue to exist in this kind of limbo in regards to making decisions about how companies are going to invest and where they're going to invest?
So the big thing that we're waiting for right now was, if you remember, Trump implemented a global tariff, what we call the global reciprocal tariffs, ranging anywhere from 10% to 50%. Those tariffs were put on a 90-day pause. That 90-day pause will lift, I believe, in July here, so within the next couple of weeks. What everyone is waiting for is what the Trump administration is going to do when that 90-day suspension comes to an end. Will those tariffs will that extension continue? Will we have another extension of that delay? Will we implement tariffs? That is the uncertainty that's kind of put everything at a crawl when it comes to imports, deliveries and whatnot. So, I mean, that's the big one. this 90-day pause, is it going to continue, or are we going to implement tariffs? Because obviously, if you go one way, it's going to really tip the scales one way or the other. So that's the big thing that we're waiting for. So until then, the key word that you're always going to hear is uncertainty.
Just real quick, and timing is of the essence, and this is all about timing, and that's basically what you guys have been talking about. You also wrote a thing last week about Mike Bost and about 30 other Republicans only signing on to a letter to FMCSA to standardize and to give a little more breathing room in terms of hours of service exemptions for emergency relief. That seems like a pretty common sense thing. Is there a reason why only Republicans are on this? And does this look like a no-brainer?
Yeah, no, I think it's a no-brainer. I've been covering natural disasters since I started here at
Right.
Landline, and one of the common complaints I have heard from those who are, providing for the disaster relief is that they just didn't get enough notice as far as the hours of service, because it could take a couple of days to prep for that and get that delivered up there. So if you don't get that hours of service, waiver until, the day of or after, it's too late, And when it comes to things like hurricanes, we know well in advance when it's going to hit. So when it's feasible, I don't know why we haven't already given these, carriers, a few days heads up on this hours of service. So yeah, I think it's definitely common sense. As far as why is it Republicans only that signed on to this, we can just speculate on that. My guess is that was more of like a Republican caucus thing, that perhaps they didn't even reach out to Democrats, because I don't see how you would be against this. So, but the bottom line is it doesn't change anything as far as the regulatory authority. This is something that FMCSA has always been able to do. It's just that Congress finally is wise to what's going on, and they're telling FMCSA, hey, man, let's get this done.
We got to let you go, brother, really quickly. By the way, you can find him at Ty Fisher on Blue Sky. You can also find him on the X, formerly known as Twitter, at Fisher Tyson. And he's also on the LinkedIn, by the way. And he's got a really fun podcast that you can also see on YouTube, or find your way over to landline.media and click on there on the tube of you. Tyson, thank you so much. It's great talking to you. We got to let you float. Thank you, brother.
Pleasure being with you guys. Thanks, man.
All right.
Tyson Fisher, everybody, Associate Editor at Landline Media.